Hi guys, this is Abdias with Good Faith Counseling. So some of my viewers requested I do a video on how to handle angry customers. If you work retail or customer service, angry customers are going to be a part of life. They are going to come over, they're going to ruin your day if you let them. So here are some things to remember when you're dealing with a customer that's not too happy. One, they probably are upset because of something that happened in their own life, not having anything to do with you. And they're probably thinking of using you as a scapegoat for whatever reason. Now, you are getting paid. And as per that old adage, customer is always right. Employers want for you to be able to keep the customer happy. Although something that we tell our clients in counseling is you are not responsible for somebody else's happiness. So do you see how those two things are at odds? Your employer wants you to keep the customer happy, but yet you are not responsible for someone else's happiness? It can be a tough conundrum. So in situations like that, what you have to remember is what you can do and what you can't do. Now, let's talk about some techniques you can use to help you get through this situation. Now, the first thing you got to remember is, again, it's not about you. It's about them. They're upset for another reason, whether it be lack of control, either at home or at work, but they've got something going on and they're in a bad mood. So how do you address it? Well, first thing you have to remember is do not internalize it. Don't make it seem like you're creating the problem, because you're not. That problem started long before they got to you. The next thing is do not reflect back their feelings. Now, a customer may raise their voice. They may have body language that they're using. Their hands may be waving all over the place and they may be very upset. They may even be using colorful metaphors to describe you. However, do not sink to their level. When you sink to their level, you give the client or customer fuel to use against you, and that fuel might get you fired. So the best way to handle an angry customer is with a stoic face. Have your customer service, or what I like to call your customer service face. Have that same face, which is a very straightforward, even lack of emotion, not too happy, not too sad face, and try your best to help that customer within the realms of your power. Now, working in customer service, I'm sure there's someone above you. So you try and help that customer as best as you can and keep that same affect in your face. Not too happy, not too sad. If you roll your eyes, they're going to catch it. If you nod your head or look down or maybe mumble a few words, upset, and they catch it, they're going to use that against you, and that could potentially affect your job performance. So you want to avoid those things. And even though inside your heart may be beating 100 miles a minute, we want to give them the same affect always, which is unchanging and immutable. Do not reflect back their own behavior or bad attitude. Next, explain to them how you can help them and wait for them to finish speaking. Do not interrupt them. Interrupting the client is going to keep them from expressing everything they have to get out. And if you interrupt them, they might take offense to that and they might raise their voice. So allow the client to fully express everything that they need to say, keeping that same stoic affect. Nod, listen, keep your eyes on them. If necessary, take some notes. And once they're finished talking, now's your opportunity to explain how it is that you can help them and offer them choices. Now, if those options are not good enough and they're still not happy, then one thing I'd like to remind you of is that we all have supervisors. Recommend or ask if they would like to speak to your supervisor if they have not requested it themselves already. Oftentimes, supervisors have other authority that you do not have. Sometimes supervisors can actually give the client what they want, and they can choose to do that, even though you may not be able to. Now, if there are legal matters that prevent you from giving the client or customer what they want, then this could pose a serious issue in making that client satisfied with their service. If that's the case, once they finish speaking, patiently and with the same tone of voice, not too excited, not upset, an even tone, same affect, explain to the client that you are not able to because there's a legal requirement that prohibits you from doing what they ask. Now, if that's the case, and that simply is still not sufficient for the customer, then that is a time to bring in your supervisor. Before you have the customer speak to your supervisor, make sure you have a staffing with your supervisor to fully explain the situation before you pass the client on to them. That way, the supervisor has a clear picture of how to address that client's needs. But one thing that you must remember is that that customer is speaking to you from their own pain. Whatever trouble they're having, they're trying to speak to you from that vantage point. So if you can express to that client that you can help them within a certain scope, then good for you. If that's enough, then problem solved. But if not, contact your supervisor. They get paid a little bit more than you do, and they have a little bit more authority to give them what they want than you do. Now, during the time the client is quite upset, one thing that you might do while you're listening is practice the 4-4-6 breathing method. You can do this without using your lips or hand gestures. You can simply breathe through your nostrils and inhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 6. You can do this as you wait and listen to the client's needs with a very stoic affect so that the client does not see any disapproval on your part and while you're listening. So doing that will help you be able to tolerate a lot of what's going on with the client, maybe their angry tone or angry words. Using the 4-4-6 is something that I do before, after, and during difficult conversations with, let's say, a boss or something else. So you can certainly do this with a customer service rep with your client as well. Now, aside from the 4-4-6 breathing technique, this is something to do during the situation. But what happens after? After the client is either satisfied and gets what they want because you were able to help them, or maybe your supervisor was, and they leave, they've still left you with a lot of internal damage. They've still left you with a raised heart rate. So how do you handle that? Well, continue to practice your breathing, the 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, and 6-second release, and take a break. It's okay to ask your supervisor or manager if you can have a 10 or 15-minute break to recover from dealing with an angry customer. There have been many, many times working in customer service where I have found that taking a break can mean all the difference between you going home and ruminating about that conversation with that customer over and over and over again, or you being able to let it go. Ask to take a break. It's your right as a human being to be able to take care of your own mental health needs. One thing to remember is you don't want to take this home with you. You want to leave that experience with that angry customer right there where you work. You don't want to ruminate about it later. If you find yourself doing that, it's important to get busy. Do something for you. Practice self-care. Enjoy one of your hobbies. Phone a friend. Sometimes talking it over with a friend or fellow coworker is the best way to let it go. It's important to have a support system in many areas of life. Who's in your support system? Is there a family member you haven't reached out to in a while? Perhaps a sibling or a grandparent? Is there a friend that you haven't reached out to in a while? It's time to practice self-care. What do you do for fun? Try and take your mind off of that stressful workday by practicing things such as yoga, moderate exercise, and having a routine that you enjoy every day. Period. Remember, that negative experience that you had with that customer was a temporary one. It's temporary. That means that in the next day, it won't matter. In a week, it won't matter. In a month, it won't matter. And certainly won't matter in a year. So if it's gonna not matter, then why beat yourself up over it? It's time to practice some self-care. Do what you love. Take care of yourself. Find happiness within yourself. Remember, you are not responsible for the happiness of your customers. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. But in the grocery store or in a customer service setting, your bosses are going to want you to do your very best to make sure that client is satisfied. But You do it only until it starts to affect your own mental health. If you can't handle the customer, let somebody else take a turn. Have something in place, maybe a special code. Maybe the code is that you need to use a bathroom so that your coworker knows that you need help. Sometimes 2 heads is better than 1. And taking turns handling the brunt of a customer's rant may be what you need to help get you through that day. Until next time, this has been another video from Good Faith Counseling. My name is Abdias, and I hope you have a blessed day and a blessed week ahead. Thank you.